Donald Trump is getting pushed back from Marjorie Taylor Greene, Rand Paul, some of the most MAGA of MAGA Republicans, while reporter Tara Palmieri alleges that Donald Trump is about to do a pardon bomb, where he pardons not only Ghislaine Maxwell, but Ghislaine and Diddy and George Santos. Before we get to that, I want to just show you what it looks like to message in the age of Donald Trump, because here is Rep. Jasmine Crockett going off, and you let me know if you think this is effective.
We need to have some real guardrails around this Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, he is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them.
Absolutely. I think that's incredible messaging. And what's so brilliant about this is she called him a piece of shit, and then everyone on the right freaked out. But what they're doing too is they're posting this video showing all of the complicity of not only Republicans, but the Supreme Court. So I think that's brilliant. My hands off to her. Now, Rand Paul is also kind of saying the quiet powder out loud, where I'll let him say.
Going back just for a second to the material versus the spiritual, in the 19th century, sort of the beginning of what became the existentialists, there was a saying, if there is no God, all is permissible. And it's kind of what you're saying. It's the hedonism, all of this lack of spirituality, the lack of sort of oneness with God is a modern problem. And it's been going on a while, but they are different sort of problems. And I think I don't deny that problem exists. I don't deny that there is a problem. But I would say from the beginning of our republic was founded in a way with the understanding that you needed virtue. Basically, that democracy required virtue. All of our founding fathers talked about it. If you go through a list of 20 founding fathers, there's always the words virtue there. And even now, people think about it. And I often will ask young people this. I'll say, well, how many of you would go out and steal if it were legal? Nobody raises their hand. It's sort of a tough question to ask, but really, most people wouldn't steal. And you think about it, why don't you steal? Why don't you go to the grocery store and steal? Because you think it's wrong, not because you're afraid of being caught, for most people. Now, there may be a small number of people who don't steal because they might get caught and go to jail. Most of us don't. So a peaceful society, there isn't enough police to police us. We have to be self-police. So there has to be a regard for right and wrong, a regard for virtue. And I think all those are important. And I think the argument for whether or not we're in a crisis of losing our mooring to any kind of virtue or right or wrong is very valid. And I agree with you completely. But I don't think that part of that argument has to be that materialism is all bad or that everything is going on is wrong, because the thing is that young people need hope, and they should be given hope. Yes. And the hope of that my future will be brighter than the others. So I'm not a pessimist in that sense. No. Do they need to understand that when there is a crisis? I think a lot of young people do. If you look at the
all right, so he goes on and on and on, but he said the thing. A free society needs virtue. Without it, no law or leader can save us. Who do you think he's talking about there? Now, we know that Rand Paul is on Donald Trump's bad side because Donald Trump is pissed off that Rand Paul actually, was trying to be a senator, represent his state and represent what he thought was right. And that big, beautiful bill he alleged was not right for not only his state, but the country. And Donald Trump got very upset about that. And so Rand Paul here is digging in the knife, saying without it, no law or leader can save us, because he's saying that Donald Trump is a man without virtue. I wish he would just plainly say it like Marjorie Taylor Greene did. But before we get to that, I actually want to just say that we know that Donald Trump isn't a man of virtue. And Tara Palmieri is showing us in one of the ways that is true, and that it's looking like, this is according to her, that Donald Trump is going to drop a pardon bomb.
The real news of the day is Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Not the news, but the about to be news. What do you think the likelihood is of Trump pardoning her if she essentially clears him?
Oh, I mean, it's totally likely. He just threw out the idea of pardoning Diddy. It's like everyone's going to get a pardon. You get a pardon. You get a pardon. Yeah, no, it's his like, and then he's going to do it all in mass. So it's like, well, everybody got a pardon. It'll happen all at the same time. And, you know, it'll just be like, it will, if that happens, I mean, that is such a stab in the back to all of the victims, especially people, because I don't think people realize how traumatizing it is to testify and retestify and retestify, like, especially in the case of Annie Farmer. I mean, and her sister, Maria, 1996, they call the FBI. They do nothing. 2004, 2004 to 2005, they cooperate with the first.
So yeah, Tara Palmieri alleges here that Donald Trump's going to pardon Diddy, Ghislaine, and George Santos because that is one tactic that they do, and they do well, is when they do something outrageous, they do it all at once. I mean, remember he pardoned the January 6 people? We don't even talk about that because there's been so many outrages since then. And I do think this is the strategy he'll use, is he'll just pardon everyone at once. So then we can't be upset at just one thing and the news cycle will move on. But like I said, Republicans are pushing back a little bit. I don't know why. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene who's doing it. But Donald Trump said this. He said India is not only buying massive amounts of Russian oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchase, selling it on the open market for big profits. They don't care about how much people buy in Ukraine or are being killed by the Russian war machine because of this. I will be substantially raising the tariff paid by India, whatever. Marjorie Taylor Greene. End Indian H-1B visas replacing American jobs instead, and stop funding and sending weapons to the Obama, Biden, Ukraine, Russian war. Now, that's all something I don't agree with, but it's incredible. It's incredible that Marjorie Taylor Greene is pushing back on the person who helped her become who she is. Because why? Because Donald Trump, he acts strong, but he's weak. He's never been more weak than he is right now. And Republicans who are connected to the base understand that and are creating more and more of a wedge. Now, Republicans also understand that Donald Trump is hurting the job market. And I'm not going to play this whole clip for you. I'm just going to read it. But CNBC asked, do you think that there's been a slowdown in jobs? And a member of Donald Trump's administration said, yeah, I think those numbers were slower than expected. Well, that man is about to get fired because apparently Donald Trump doesn't like just getting the facts. And here is Elizabeth Warren kind of wrapping this all up into a nice little bow.
Because this is like taking value that the United States has literally spent decades and decades and decades building up, and Donald Trump just strikes a match and sets it on fire. He tells the entire world, don't trust data coming out of the United States. Lord, is that
Do you have any expectation there's something you and the Congress can do about it?
Well, yeah, this is our problem.
I mean, obviously
all
you're in the
along.
minority party, but
Well, we have Republicans, in theory, they could just stand up to him, but I say in theory. It's the most spineless bunch of people I've ever seen. Even something that so clearly will hurt their home states, will hurt businesses in their home states, and I don't hear a peep from them saying, back off, we need independent data collection. This woman who has served under Democrats and Republicans, shoot, Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance voted for her when she was confirmed. Very apolitical position. Where are those Republicans
what about the business
up?
community? Are you surprised? Now it's early.
Yeah, so it's just like what Jasmine Crockett said at the top, where there is a solution to all of this. And it's not Democrats, to be quite frank, because we know what's right and what's wrong. It is the Republicans who are allowing it to happen. None of this has to happen. Republicans have the power to stop it. They choose every day not to. And I wonder if they'll wake up when the pardon bomb does drop. Maybe that will be the turning point, but I probably am not going to bet much money on it. But thank you for watching. If you like this video, please hit like in the video. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time. Bye.